A scream tore across the frozen pass, slicing the morning silence like a blade. It echoed through the ravines before vanishing into the storm-wrapped peaks. Somewhere below, in the snow-choked trench of Carget Ridge, a boy no older than 15 clutched his father's rifle, its barrel slick with frost. His father was gone, dragged away hours earlier, blood trailing behind like a broken red thread across white silence. No maps marked this place. Every path was a guess. Every footfall a risk. In the distance, muffled explosions sent tremors through the ice. The boy's breath fogged the air. A crow landed near a fallen helmet, tilted, as if listening. Then boots, foreign, fast, too many. The boy pressed into the snow, eyes wide, the rifle trembling against his chest. His father's last words haunted him. "No one is coming. Draw your own line." The scream faded, but its echo lingered in the boy's head like a siren that refused to end. He lay still, snow pressing into his back, his breath shallow. He couldn't tell where the path had gone. It had dissolved beneath the snowfall like the men before him. Maps meant nothing here. Lines drawn in pencil, forgotten by wind. Commanders spoke of coordinates. But here, survival was a matter of instinct. He remembered his father marking routes on a napkin with a burnt matchstick, whispering, "Never trust the paper maps, trust what bleeds." A single crunch of ice caught his attention. Too close. He tightened his grip on the rifle. Eyes locked. Eyes locked. He wasn't a soldier. Not yet. But war had a way of ignoring birth dates. He crawled forward slowly, each motion deliberate, body half submerged in powder. The trail his father had carved, marked with small stones and snapped branches, was gone. Swallowed by the storm. It was as if the mountain had decided to erase everything. Each second, the silence grew louder. He passed a glove, not his, fingers frozen into a claw. A rusted insignia peered through the ice. He didn't know if it was friend or enemy. He only knew it meant someone had died here. The boy pressed on, led not by knowledge, but a memory of warmth, his father's shoulder, heavy and safe. That memory would be his compass. A sound, a sharp snap, like ice fracturing under pressure. He froze. Another step. Then another. Shadows approached through the fog. Without thinking, the boy raised the rifle. His hands were shaking. His finger found the trigger. He remembered nothing else, just the crack of the shot, deafening and final. The recoil knocked him back. Silence returned, thicker than before. A shape collapsed in the fog. Had he hit a man? A deer? An ally? His pulse roared in his ears. Tears burned down his cheeks. Somewhere, a crow screamed again. He had crossed a line. The map, the war, his childhood, none of it mattered now. The rifle had spoken for him. He approached slowly, feet crunching over ice, rifle still raised. The body lay motionless, cloaked in gray. No insignia. No ID. Just a face, half covered in snow, young, maybe 20. The boy knelt beside the body, chest heaving, heart thudding so loud he thought the mountain could hear. He touched the soldier's cheek. Warm, bit, still. Then not. The life gone. A low wind whispered past, as if the peaks themselves offered no judgment, only indifference. This was his first kill. It would not be his last. But this one had no name. No context. Just a face in the snow. Eyes staring upward toward a sky that no longer remembered him. The boy sat in a shallow crevice, hidden from the wind, cradling the rifle like a fragile memory. His numb fingers reached into his coat and pulled out a torn, charred napkin. Faded black lines marked winding routes, his father's map, drawn by candlelight, stained with oil and blood. He remembered the night it was made. They were camped in an abandoned outpost, huddled around a dying flame. His father said, "The mountain will lie to you, so draw truth with your own hands." Now, that truth was burning at the edges, soaked by melted snow. He clenched it anyway. It smelled of smoke and regret. He wanted to cry, but the cold had stolen his tears. Above, the wind howled like a wounded animal. Below, footsteps stirred. He had no name for where he was. Only a destination his father had etched beside a circle. "If I don't come back, go here." The boy looked up. He would go. He kept hearing his father's voice, not in memory, but as if it lived in the wind. Each gust carried a whisper, a warning. "Move faster. Watch the ridge. Don't trust the shadows." Was it madness or memory taking shape? The boy didn't know. He followed it anyway. His legs ached. His lips split open with each breath. The path twisted beneath his feet, a game of instinct now. No compass, no map, only fragments of advice whispered through frost-bitten thoughts. He climbed a narrow rock face, stones slipping under his boots, hands bleeding through torn gloves. Near the top, a rusted wire marked an old trail. Signal Route 17, his father had called it. Abandoned. Booby-trapped. Dead soldiers lined it decades ago. But it was also the fastest way north. The boy looked up. The sky was darker now. He whispered, "Tell me where you are, Baba." The wind had no answer. Signal Route 17 looked like death. A trail barely wide enough for a man's shoulders cut along the spine of the mountain, strewn with fragments of helmets, broken steel, and forgotten bones. Snow clung to the metal, making every surface a trap. The boy stepped lightly, remembering how his father once disarmed a mine with a knife and a prayer. Now, each step was a question. Was that rock too round? Was that patch too clean? A sudden wind blast knocked him sideways. He hit the wall hard, heart-pounding. A cracked photo fluttered nearby, pinned under ice. He pried it loose. 3 men smiling. One of them may be his father, younger, unscarred. Was it? He couldn't be sure. The wind stole the photo from his hand before he could decide. It vanished over the edge like a dream too fragile to keep. He kept walking. A red flare hissed into the sky behind him, bright as blood against the gray canopy. The boy ducked instinctively, pressing against the icy rock. Who had fired it? Not him. Not anyone friendly. The light lit up the mountain like fire through glass, revealing his silhouette for any watching eyes. Panic surged. He dropped low, began to crawl, not forward, but downward, into an old trench he spotted beneath a snowdrift. Inside, it stank of rust and old sorrow. A frozen boot jutted from a collapsed wall. He waited, chest heaving, eyes locked on the flare's dying trail. Then he heard it, clipped foreign voices. Close. Tight. Laughing. Arguing. Boots crunching snow. He clutched the rifle. If they found him, he would not beg. He would not run. He was his father's son. He reached into his coat again and pulled out the one thing he hadn't dared to look at since the day his father vanished, a battered wristwatch. Its crystal was cracked, second-hand long dead. But the hands pointed at 417, forever stuck in that moment. It was the time his father had disappeared. He remembered glancing at the field radio clock just before the shooting started. That watch had seen things he couldn't. It had been on his father's wrist during missions, meetings, betrayals. Now, it was his. He clutched it to his chest and lay back in the trench, listening. The voices faded. The wind slowed. For a moment, the mountain was still. The watch didn't tick. But the boy did. With every heartbeat, he drew a new line on the blank map of his fate. He crept out of the trench before dawn, fog still clinging to the valley like a secret. The flare was gone, but its echo lingered in his muscles. Up ahead, smoke curled from a collapsed outpost. He approached cautiously, rifle raised, boots silent on the crusted snow. A flag flapped limply, familiar colors but upside down. That wasn't an accident. Inside, he found a man, mid-30s, local uniform, face torn by frostbite, aiming a pistol straight at him. Neither fired. The man's hand trembled. "You're just a boy," he muttered. The boy stayed silent, eyes locked. Slowly, the man lowered his weapon. "They left us. Our own command. He laughed bitterly. You're not the first to walk this lie. He handed the boy a canteen and turned away, disappearing behind a broken radio tower. The boy didn't follow. He had no idea if the man was mad or the only sane one left. He walked north, where the mountain narrowed into a corridor of jagged ice. There, beneath a sheer cliff, he saw them, 6 figures frozen in the open. Not buried. Not hidden. Just sitting upright in the snow, rifles across their laps, helmets still on. Soldiers long dead, preserved by cold like artifacts in a museum of silence. The boy approached slowly, awe and dread twisting inside him. One had a photo pinned to his collar, a woman holding a child. Another had scribbled words into his rifle stock, not forgotten. The boy stood among them, feeling watched. These weren't ghosts. They were warnings. No one had come for them. No one ever would. He whispered, "I'll remember you." Then turned, walking forward, rifle heavy in his hands. A rusted comms tower stood alone on the ridge, its frame bent like a wounded limb. The boy climbed it carefully, hands raw against the metal. Inside the junction box, an old radio clicked to life. Static first. Then, a voice, urgent, clipped, speaking in broken code. Echo unit. Confirm casualty grid. Repeat. Echo. The boy froze. It wasn't his side's frequency. He didn't know who was speaking, but they were close, too close. He pressed the button, whispering nonsense, mimicking the rhythm of transmission. Static answered. Then silence. Had they believed it? Or had he just revealed himself? As he descended, he spotted figures moving below, 3, maybe 4, searching. His bluff had bought him seconds, not safety. He ran, breath tearing through his throat. He found the corpse near a ravine, fresh, face down, gear still intact. The uniform was clean, local unit. But something was off. Wrong boots. Wrong rank patch. When he turned the body over, he gasped. The man had been stripped of his ID. The insignia sewn on was a patchwork of enemy colors, stitched over something else. A plant. A spy. A decoy. The boy recoiled, mind racing. How many had passed as allies? How many maps had been sold, faked, changed by men like this? His father's warnings rang louder now. Trust nothing. Believe only the mountain. He searched the pockets. Found a pencil sketch, his father's face, marked with a red X. Betrayal wasn't an idea here. It had a face. A price. And it walked in borrowed skin. He moved faster now, no longer searching, only fleeing. The path ahead wound through black rock and snowfields, untouched by boots. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. A trap could be in any footprint. A lie in any friendly face. The rifle felt heavier. The watch colder. He imagined the war as a living thing now, breathing through deception, feeding on doubt. He reached a crest and saw movement. 2 figures below, cloaked in his side's colors. He raised the scope. One was limping. The other was scanning with binoculars. Not watching the ridge, but the trail, tracking. Hunters. He ducked back. They were using his father's map. Or something like it. If they were allies, why did it feel like a hunt? He clutched the rifle. Alone, but no longer uncertain. His father had said to draw his own line. He would. He found the cave at nightfall, just as the map had suggested, tucked between 2 leaning boulders like lips parting to reveal a secret. The boy lit a flare and stepped inside. The walls were dry. Too dry. Not natural. Inside, crates were stacked with surgical precision. Supplies, ammunition, radios. Some bore enemy markings. Others were scratched clean. But the real shock sat in a rusted box. Documents. Sealed orders. Maps with multiple overlays. One version showed enemy positions. Another? his side's roots exposed. The lines matched the one his father drew. Only his father's version didn't expose their own men. The realization bloomed like fire in his chest. The command had sent units into traps. For gain. For leverage. His father hadn't been captured. He had known, and tried to stop it. Inside the folder was a letter. Handwritten. The slanted script. I'm familiar. The boy unfolded it slowly. If you find this, I'm likely dead. But you were right to follow the trail. His father's voice whispered in his mind as he read. The letter wasn't just a goodbye, it was a confession. His father had uncovered falsified maps, created not by enemies, but by their own intelligence unit, meant to mislead entire brigades, isolate resistance cells, and allow selective strikes. The boy trembled. His father's last act had been treason, according to command. But in this cave, it was truth. His exile wasn't failure. It was survival. Don't let them draft your mind, son. You're worth more than obedience. The boy clenched the letter. The mountain no longer felt cold. It felt like fire. He emerged from the cave at dawn, a different person. The wind didn't bite the same way. He checked the ridge, quiet. Then he saw it, a marker etched into stone near the cave's mouth. A triangle with a cross through it. He'd seen it once before, scrawled on a village wall before the fires came. It meant silence. Meant kill on sight. This cache wasn't just forgotten. It had been buried on purpose. Erased. His father hadn't just been running from the enemy, he was hiding from his own. That explained the men in familiar uniforms tracking him. Not to rescue. To erase what he might uncover. The boy looked down at the letter, then at the snow-covered valley. He had something more dangerous than a rifle now, the truth. And someone wanted it buried. He returned to the mismatched soldier's body from earlier. Snow had begun to swallow it. But he wasn't looking for weapons. He was looking for the truth. In the inner coat pocket he found it. Another sketch, nearly identical to the first. His father's face again, but this time, circled, not crossed. And beneath it, a name, Commander Raylan. His father had a name, a rank, one the boy had never heard spoken. Not in the stories. Not in the camps. Only whispers. His father hadn't just been a soldier. He'd been one of them, until he turned. Until he erased himself. The boy's hands shook. It wasn't exile. It was defection. He had walked away from the machine. And now, they were trying to erase even the memory of his choice. He burned the second sketch. Not out of fear, but to ensure no one else would hold it. Let them chase shadows. His father's legacy would not be twisted by traitors' lips. He pocketed the original letter and buried the mismatched uniform under fresh snow, erasing the signs. He wasn't running now. He was choosing his trail. The boy turned and looked back at the peaks. Every map had lied. Every compass had spun. But in his chest, something pointed true. The rifle was no longer a crutch. It was a burden. He would carry it until it broke, or until he did. Either way, his war wasn't about flags anymore. It was about truth. And someone had to carry it through the storm. He scaled the last ridge before twilight fell, the cold biting at his lungs. Beneath him lay a hollow valley, forgotten by maps but marked in his father's letter. This was the fallback zone, used once during the uprising, then erased. The boy gathered kindling in silence, built a crude tower of broken gear and snow-wet branches. He struck the flare. Red fire lit the sky. It wasn't a call for rescue. It was a message. I know. The fire roared, defiant against the wind. Somewhere out there, someone would see it. Friend or enemy, it didn't matter now. It was his choice. The boy stood by the blaze, rifle in one hand, the letter in the other. His face no longer looked like a child's. It looked like someone who had inherited a war and decided to answer it. He saw the figure through the smoke before he heard the voice. A soldier alone, approaching slowly, hands raised. Don't shoot. I knew your father. The boy didn't lower the rifle. The man's uniform was clean, but the insignia scratched. He tried to stop it, the man said. They branded him a traitor because he wouldn't hand over the map. The boy's hands trembled, not from cold but rage. Then, why didn't you help him? He asked. The man hesitated. I did. I gave him this. He reached into his coat and produced a medallion, etched with the same triangle cross symbol, but cracked in two. He wore it so they'd stop looking. The boy took it. It was warm. 1 inch. Real. Top. He lowered the rifle, but only an inch. Then help me finish what he started, he said. The man nodded. I already am. They sat beside the fire as night swallowed the sky. The older man unfolded a new map, one layered with invisible ink, revealed by heat. As the fire warmed the page, routes appeared, hidden camps, intelligence corridors, entire valleys scrubbed from official records. This is what your father died protecting, the man said. The real map. Not the lies handed to commanders. The boy stared at it, memorizing the lines, the bends, the scars of a war no one wanted recorded. These weren't strategic locations. They were evidence of betrayal, of exploitation, of men sent to die for false borders. You're holding a weapon, the man said, but that paper might be deadlier. The boy looked up. Then we aim it the right way. Before dawn, they buried the fire and began descending a different trail, one not marked on any official map. The older soldier handed him a sealed satchel. If I don't make it, you get this to the border. The boy didn't argue. He understood now. This wasn't just survival. It was testimony. But steps echoed behind them. Not just one, many. The enemy. Allies? It didn't matter anymore. The boy ducked behind a ridge, loaded the rifle, hands steady. A single gunshot cracked a morning silence. Then another. The older man shouted something before vanishing behind the snow line. The boy stayed low, breath steady, waiting. He had no illusions. This wasn't a mission that ended in medals. It ended in exposure or silence. And he would die before choosing silence. Gunfire tore across the slope. He fired back, controlled, precise. Each shot marked a refusal, to forget, to comply, to vanish. He wasn't just fighting strangers. He was holding a line drawn by his father's final breath. The firefight echoed for what felt like hours, but time no longer mattered. Blood bloomed across his sleeve. He didn't feel it. Only the weight of purpose, of everything that had come before. When it was over, the snow was no longer clean. He stood limping, alone again. The satchel was intact. His father's truth, still breathing. He looked at the sky, whispering, I held it, Baba. Then, without hesitation, he walked into the valley. Not for revenge. For memory. For justice. For the map no one else dared carry. He reached the edge of the war at dusk. The border wasn't a wall. It was a line of stones beside a burned-out cabin, forgotten by treaties, ignored by soldiers. On the other side, fields, a dirt road, the hush of normal life. But he didn't cross. Not yet. He placed the satchel on the cabin step and lit a small fire. This time not for signal, but for warmth. He didn't need to be seen. Just found. He watched smoke rise against the twilight sky, fingers brushing the cracked watch on his wrist. It was still stuck at 4:17. He whispered, Still ticking, Baba, just not the same way. A breeze rustled the trees. Somewhere behind him, the war still snarled, still hunted. But he was no longer prey. He had become something else. Evidence. He dreamed that night. Not of blood. Not of snow. But of laughter. His father's voice muffled through smoke, telling a joke half-finished. He dreamed of the napkin map, drawn clean, without bullet holes or ash. Then the faces came, those frozen soldiers, the spy with no name, the man with the broken medallion. They didn't accuse. They watched. When he woke, the fire was out, but their eyes still lingered in his mind. Ghosts weren't spirits. They were memories that refused silence. He pulled out the letter again, reading the words by the weak gray light. This time he didn't cry. He simply said, "I remember." That was enough. That was survival. And maybe, someday, justice. Before the sun climbed high, he wrapped the satchel in cloth and placed it in a courier crate outside a nearby supply hut, unmarked, unguarded, but known to those who watched. No return address. No name. Just a red stitch sewn into the corner, like the one in his father's old coat. Then he walked away, not looking back. The truth would find its own path now. He didn't need applause. Didn't want justice shouted. He wanted silence to break in the right places, quietly, irrevocably. His part was done. He hadn't crossed the border as a refugee. He had arrived as a witness. The boy who carried lies through fire now left behind a different kind of war. A war against forgetting. He discarded the uniform at the edge of a stream, watching it drift away like bark down a flooded river. It no longer fit. Not the body, not the soul. He stood bare-chested for a moment, the cold sharp but clean and splashed water over his face. A small boy watched from the trees, no older than he'd been when the war began. Their eyes met. No words. Just the quiet understanding of someone who sees and understands. The boy nodded once, slowly, then vanished into the woods. The stream carried the cloth away until it snagged on a root and fluttered like a flag surrendering. But this wasn't surrender. This was reinvention. He found a pencil in the dirt near the hut, a worn stub with no eraser. On the back of the satchel's empty page, he began to write. Not a map. Not a confession. Just names. Every face he remembered. The spy. The frozen patrol. The father with the cracked voice. No ranks. No flags. Just names. Each letter carved slowly, deeply. He wrote until the pencil broke. Then he kept pressing anyway, letting the pressure leave a trace. History didn't begin with battles. It began with remembrance. The boy folded the page and tucked it into the stone beneath the cabin. Hidden, yes, but real. The truth might be buried. But now it had roots. And roots, he had learned, always find a way back to light. He wandered through a valley untouched by monuments. No statues. No flags. Just frost-covered stone and wild flowers that bloomed in places where bullets once whispered. He moved slowly, hands in pockets, rifle gone, satchel empty. But in his chest, the weight remained. These were not victory lands. They were memory fields. As he passed a crumbling bunker, he paused. The concrete wall bore faint graffiti. Gone, not lost. He traced it with his fingers. No one had come to reclaim this place. Maybe no one ever would. But that was the point. The mountain kept its secrets not with violence, but with silence. He stepped away without speaking. No need. The land already knew. Miles away, in a dusty archive room beneath a command station, an officer stared at a familiar satchel. Unsealed. No note. Just the documents. Maps. Thugs. Letters. Sketches. All real. All damning. He looked up at the clerk and said, "File it under ghost operations. Lock it down." The clerk hesitated. "Sir, if this leaks..." The officer cut him off. "It won't. This war never happened. These names don't exist." The clerk nodded, but as he filed it, he slipped a carbon copy of one map into his coat. He'd seen the mark on it before, on the jacket of a boy they'd questioned once. The boy who never came back. Truth, he realized, didn't need to shout. It only needed to survive. Years later, a package arrived at a quiet farmhouse in the southern lowland. No return address. Inside, a watch, a folded napkin map, and a single letter. A woman in her 50s opened it, her hands trembling. Her breath caught when she read the signature. Raylan.Wine. Her brother, Dew. Long thought dead. The letter didn't explain what happened. It only said, he made it. Not home, but through. She held the watch to her chest, eyes closing. Outside, a young boy, her grandson, played with sticks in the dirt, drawing shapes. She stepped onto the porch, watching him trace a crooked line. "What are you drawing?" she asked. "A map," he replied. She smiled faintly. "Make sure it's one worth remembering." Somewhere high in the mountains, at the edge of a forgotten cliff, a small stone marker stands. No flag. No inscription. Just a single rifle embedded upright in the earth, barrel down. Next to it, a medallion tied with red thread. The wind whistles across the ridge, carrying no anthem, just cold truth. Travelers don't stop here. There's no reason to. No story in the history books. But once a year, someone comes, leaves a folded paper, then disappears. No cameras, no speeches, just quiet. The stone remains. Not a grave. A reminder of the boy, of the father, of the map no one followed, except the one who mattered most. And so the story ends not with a treaty, nor with applause. It ends where it began, in silence. A scream buried beneath snow. A line drawn by hand because no map could be trusted. The boy was never found in reports. His name erased. But someone kept writing it. In whispers. On pages left in stone. In a truth that refused to fade. One sentence passed from one mouth to another, year after year. He held the line. No medals. Just memory. No parade. Just legacy. And in a world where every map was a lie, one boy's path was the only one drawn in truth. The final line wasn't ink. It was bone, breath, and blood. It cannot be redrawn.